Okay, hit it, Joe.
Good evening and welcome to the After Hours show and to my seasonal affective disorder. Evening, Ann. I'm joined
Hey,
by
Joe.
Ann Lee, a retired college professor and a community member at the Daily Coast. They're a member of the National Council of Independent Scholars and is a contributor to the book, The Political Economy of Art, Making the Nation of Culture. Hey there.
Hey, what's for
Oh,
supper?
man, is this cold getting to me? Really moved back here 6 months too soon. Jesus. I've been wearing my snow pants inside the house 2 weeks now.
There you go.
So I've got a bit of warm weather cravings. So I need something to kind of boost up my positivity. And I thought since we've got -10 or something out there, perfect temperature to do some deep frying. And I thought also we might celebrate the Maha Czar's announcement for his inverted food pyramid. Anybody seen this thing? How the? I mean, we're 100% vegetarian show here, but regardless of what we all might eat, I mean, how can I can't afford to eat like that here in Norway? Geez, you got to turn that thing upside down. If you turn it upside down, then you're starving. Oh my Lord, crazy, crazy what they're thinking. But I mean, apparently his latest announcement promoting the ketogenic diet.
Ah,
Got to get your ketones going on because
yeah.
apparently, based on some study, at least 2 people from this study have been cured of either their bipolarism or their schizophrenia or both. Public announcement in
How
front of
could you
adults.
tell? How could you tell if they were both bipolar and schizophrenic? Anyway,
Fucking crazy. So I thought I might celebrate in violating all of those rules. Oh no, I'm only going to put a smidgen of gluten in this one, but we are definitely going to be frying in seed oils. Mark my words. As soon as they thaw, they're a bit gelatinous right now. So, anyways, what I thought I'd make, I thought I must have made these years ago, but deep fried fritters. So Indian, Pakistani, South Asian bhaji or pakora or pakoda. There's all kinds of variations. Today I'll be making 2 onions, slivered onions, and a marrow squash. So I've got besan flour, which is chickpea flour. I'll add some rice flour to add a little crunch and maybe a little, I always forget the name of it, natron, bicarbonate soda as well. Crisp it up, leaven it. And we've got a number of different seeds. I'll mix and match into the different batters. So we've got shout out to our missing Belgian, fennel, the much loathed fennel. We've got nigella or onion seeds, some coriander seeds, not to be confused with cilantro. And we have cumin, haldi or turmeric, some chili, and the secret South Indian flavoring asafoetida powder, with that unique curry taste. So I'll get to prepping this, and then we shall head out to the Arctic kitchen afterwards. I I
Fire
hope
up
you're
that
still not.
burner.
I hope you are still not talking about that Epstein guy, because I could get that off any of my podcast subscriptions. It was just like one would end and then another begins with more pedophilia, more pedophilia. Oh.
Well, it's very motivating. It's very
Mm.
motivating. I mean, Trump went to bog standard racism last night by putting out on
Oh,
Truth Social those images of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama with their faces pasted on
oh,
apes, on monkeys or whatever.
jeez.
And mainstream media has finally gotten annoyed by his stupidity, so they actually let off one show let off talking about that.
So people concerned that it was in bad taste or that it's actually fucking racist.
No, wait a second. The breaking news is that this is because they're leading on another program. He just deleted the video. Trump
Mhm.
deleted the video mainly because mainstream media was leading with it on every program. But the internet is forever, so we have that image
Mm.
to insult people with. Um, you know, it follows on some, and it's still all about Epstein. With all due respect, I
Mm.
mean, last night it was revealed that Trump had tried to extort Chuck Schumer, with releasing the Gateway Tunnel. It's a huge $16 billion project. The Gateway Tunnel, which is replacing the old Gateway Tunnel, or the New Jersey, New York Transit Tunnel, whatever the hell it's called, because it hasn't been really renovated at all. And if you've ever ridden the train between Jersey and New York, you get held up mainly because of that tunnel. Anyway, Trump threatened to continue to hold it up, or that he would release the money, because they're still in lawfare about the fact that Trump has tried to hold up the money, even though there's litigation going on anyway. He tried to extort from Chuck Schumer a promise which Chuck can't make, but he tried anyway, and that is to rename Penn Station in New York and the Dulles International Airport for Trump. Now, there is pre-existing legislation introduced by the GOP to rename Dulles International Airport to Trump International. But anyway, so it just follows on that, and that became a big deal, that he was trying to extort Schumer, which um, only shows how crazy he's gotten. Truly crazy. Anyway, that's not the major stuff. There's other stuff going on in the background. Uh, the Iranians tried to take over a U.S. flagged tanker in the Hormuz Strait last night, and it's just interesting because that was sort of in response to uh, the U.S. carrier Abraham Lincoln shooting down an Iranian surveillance drone. And the fact is, the surveillance drone is looks and probably reads on a radar scope the same as a armed drone. So needless to say, they went up and shot it down. So that happened a couple of days ago. So we have this stuff going on, and there's supposed to be uh, today. I think it's today, a meeting between Iranians and the U.S. in Oman, and I don't know if that really happened or not, but that was the plan. It got shifted from Turkey. So anyway, there's stuff going on,
And
and
isn't that what
that
they did last time? They had
oh yeah,
meeting planned and then they bombed the shit out of the
yeah. It's all the
nuclear
same
site.
deal. It's the same deal. I mean, although I think the U.S. is better prepared to bomb Iran now
Mm.
that they have really a full scale thing. They've got two subs, three destroyers, I think two aircraft carriers, or at least one aircraft carrier. Um, they have a total of 200 Tomahawk missiles they can launch against Iran. Not that they're going to launch all 200, because last time, what is it? They only, shot a dozen or whatever. Um, so anyway, that's going on in the background, and nobody talks about that on U.S. mainstream media. It's still, kind of Trump, but it is all
How,
still Trump
how much at
because,
risk are their armadas in the Gulf?
well, uh, there's been talk that the Iranians have told the Houthi to not, for at least of the moment, not send
Mhm.
missiles at the U.S. But
Mhm.
that how long a bet with the Houthis are. So it stuff's happening. I think there is something in Syria recently. There's all kinds of stuff going on. It's very annoying, with all due respect. And that's going on, and nobody mentions that on U.S. media. I mean, you have to go elsewhere to find out that that's happening. And even though you have talks and blah blah blah, um, it's not really going to happen yet. So there's that. And then everything else is, Trump related or Epstein related. And um, a number of foreign countries have actually gone to the point of firing um, famous people or people in their governments because they got mentioned. However, incidentally, but I'm sure that some of them are much more involved from their government. So I think you're going to get a case where uh, internationally, we're going to be talking more about Epstein, regardless of how Trump tries to stop it. And so there's that. It's been a busy week. Um, I put up something that talks about the use of the Tom Homan, Tom 50K Homan, the immigration czar. Um, what what he or what Trump did was withdraw, supposedly. We don't really know. I mean, that really hasn't truly been verified, but they claim they've taken 700 federal agents out of Minnesota. So they only have, normally they only have like maybe 30 to 80 immigration people in Minnesota. So it's still 2,300 people running around Minnesota, still, arresting people, dragging people out of cars, still doing the same stupid stuff. They just aren't as trigger happy. Uh, there was a book by a guy at the University of Hawaii. His last name is Reese, I think. They were interviewing him. He wrote a book a couple of years ago, not too long ago, about how the Border Patrol is probably the worst law enforcement agency in the United States. I mean, they're just wild. They've always been wild because they were designed in the 1940s to, facilitate the southern border issues. There's the whole, Bracero thing during World War II, and then the continuing Bracero stuff all the way, up till whatever, a couple decades after the war. And so there's all that. And originally, the Border Patrol, as they were talking about, as this fellow Reese, Professor Reese was talking about, as the Border Patrol is supposed to be on the damn border. They're supposed to be, as they say, in sight of the border, because that was the original design. But now it's, 100 to 150 miles inland. And of course, with Minnesota, they're 300 miles inland, at least 300 miles inland. So, obviously, you don't want to call it fascism, but it's something, certainly something.
Mm.
And so it's been a busy week. A couple of towns have managed to reject the possibility that ICE would buy disused large scale warehouses. If you've seen, how big regional warehouses go, they're huge and they cover a lot of land, but they're only located because they only need a couple hundred folks working there. um, they're huge, but they only have a couple of hundred folks, working in the warehouse. So when they become disused because of, transportation, logistics, supply chain issues, there are these big buildings sitting there. And under the current plan, and there is a plan, and it's really complicated, and it was drawn up a, a while back, and that is to use U.S. Navy money allocated to the U.S. Navy to refurbish something like, though we have a list of 23, it's less now, fortunately, of these sites. And they're generally in red states, although there's, I think a couple planned in New Jersey. But anyway, the point being is that you would house anywhere from, 3,000 to 10,000 detainees there. And so essentially, as I tried to point out, and as some other people pointed out, the concentration camp system, and this is going Godwin again, but 23, there were only 21 to 23,000 prisoners in the German concentration camps at the moment when Hitler came to power. And of course, that obviously changed. At current moment, remember that number, 73,000 people are in these kinds of facilities. Now, that doesn't include, the reality of that there are prisoners, that there are people who are the worst of the worst. But the fact of the matter is, most of them aren't. They're, you know, quote unquote, asylum seeking, whatever, scofflaws, but they aren't. There's some people like that poor kid, 5-year-old kid who got taken with his father to Texas, from Minnesota. Uh, they had done all the paperwork. They were really normal from an asylum seeking point of view, but they decided, oh well, we'll make an example, as though we forgot about child separation policies during the first Trump administration. So that happened. Kid got released, obviously, and there's the
On
judicial
his own?
opinion.
He got
Oh no,
released
no,
in
no!
Texas, or
With his
or with the?
dad, they got to
Oh,
fly
okay.
back, and they got back they got back home eventually. But the judge who forced them to be released, and you could just imagine, you got grabbed off the street, they send you to some other state, and in some cases they've just sort of pushed people out the door and say you got to get back to Minnesota on your own. But in this case, there was enough infrastructure to get them back. But it's a 2.5-page opinion, but it really is scathing about how unconstitutional it is to do this kind of stuff. And uh, perfidy was the word. That this was perfidy, treachery, the most perfidious example of state power, of federal power. And, that's kind of where we are. And there's been talk, and I really wish, as other people have, that Bad Bunny would wear the little cap that this little fellow, Elian, or whatever his name is, Rios, wear his little, whatever it is, Labubu or whatever, his hat on his head during the halftime show at the Super Bowl. But anyway, there's a lot of people demanding that, and I think it'd be really great. And talk about perfidy. But anyway, so that's happened. There's a whole sideshow related to attempts to grab uh, ballots. Now, there's several different versions of this tale, and it got really complicated when it was revealed that after, and for some bureaucratic reasons, and today, Pam Bondi said that she and Tulsi Gabbard were inseparable, whatever the hell that means, that they were all, sort of on the same page, but it was sort of talked about as though they were a cabal, which is even more amusing, because Tulsi Gabbard somehow was supervising, or as the consigliere Todd Blanche says, oh, well, it's just coincidental that Tulsi Gabbard was in Atlanta at the same time as the FBI was sent to seize ballots, the physical ballots from 2020 in Fulton County, Georgia. So you have the FBI coming, unannounced certainly, saying, they got tape, they've got a video showing the FBI guy saying, "Oh, we're not leaving without them," and that happens after some business. They didn't even know where the hell they were going and where the stuff was, but they were certainly willing to push people around to get it. So the FBI seizes 700 boxes or whatever, however many boxes it is, of 2020 Georgia ballots. They're still sealed, fortunately, because there's lawfare that required to open the damn thing. So they're still sealed, and there's lots of Fulton County's mad. The state is mad. We're mad because all this is unconstitutional. It's illegal. It's illegal. I mean, people could be arrested for this and should be. But anyway, Tulsi Gabbard is coincidentally, if you believe Todd Blanche, is in Georgia at the same time. Now, what happens after this, or the background to this, is that for some reason, there's a whistleblower in whatever it is, DNI or someplace, who is, and I don't know, we don't even know what it's about. It seems to be about, and in fact, this may not be the case, that the reality was that it's been revealed now that Tulsi Gabbard was part of a little group that went to Puerto Rico to seize voting machines. That happened in May or something. And so that just got revealed, which is a whole nother thing about whether that's legal or not. And of course, the reality is that, votes in Puerto Rico don't really, make much difference relative to an election. But you can see that they've been trying to do this since 2020. I mean, it's just all of the same piece. One shouldn't get upset about it. It's just the reality is that they're trying to do this to obviously intimidate, suppress votes, put in place something that Trump said that is totally unconstitutional. It's impossible for him to do it, in fact. I mean, there's no way that he could do it, but it doesn't mean that he can't stop trying with 40,000 extra, ICE and Border Patrol guys to go in and seize ballots here and there. And what does that mean? Well, does it mean that certain states have to get out the National Guard to protect polling places? That's kind of where they want it to go, because then we'll all be intimidated. We won't go to vote. And those kind of people who vote in the majority anyway won't show up, and therefore Republicans will still be in charge. So GOP fascism still continues on. So, that's what's happening there. Trump himself announces a couple days ago this week that he wants to, quote unquote, nationalize elections, which is totally illegal, stupid, and unconstitutional. But in fact, he yaks about it. And today, I think it's today, or there's coming
Yes.
up, there's a briefing of all 50 states, secretaries of
Governors?
state.
Oh, yeah.
With the FBI and the associated DHS, et cetera, they want to, quote unquote, talk about their partnership with voting at the state level, which is BS, because they're not supposed to have anything to do with voting. Voting in the United States happens at the state and local levels. I mean, all voting.
But then the FBI has an executive election office there.
Oh, yeah, they have actually a
them.
guy. They've got a guy who's in charge of this. You know? So, and of course, currently the mainstream media is actually interviewing various secretaries of state. I think the one that's on right now is the Secretary of State in Maine. Just asking, what the hell is this? Because this is, unusual, as they say. And they've been invited to a Zoom meeting with the FBI. And, you can just see what this, it's all publicity or PR or
Unusual. Is that a euphemism for unconstitutional?
unusual. That's right. Essentially what they're going to do is propagandize. This is a suppression, this is part of vote suppression. It's to
Mm.
say, well, we want to put in the processes or procedures or practices to just in case there's a problem. Well, the problem is being created by the same people. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's no different than ICE in Minnesota. And so that's happened. Fortunately, no one's been killed since the initial killings in Minnesota. A lot of people have had windows broken. That's kind of the new tactic. They'll come to a building, even though the sign on the front says, if you're going to come into the building, you can go around to the back. They decided that that was too proletarian for them, and so they break the front window and just go in. This is in Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, uh, just because they think they can. And so, therefore, nothing has changed. The point is, nothing has changed in Minnesota, and we've now discovered all of these other things. The guy who was admitted, this was from last week, the guy who got admitted because his head had multiple fractures from running into a wall, and the claim was by the ICE guys that the detainee had run deliberately in his head into a wall, which, the fortunately, the people in the emergency room are looking at this and going, that's not what happened. And so there's that. And I hope to
Well,
God that something happens from that.
did you mention regarding the election? Did you mention that Steve Bannon was
Oh, yeah.
the announcing that the ICE agents should appear at the voting stations
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No,
as
no.
an
He
intimidation tactic?
surrounding all of them,
Hmm.
that he just claimed on his little podcast that, oh, no, I should be. Well, he has no standing in the government, certainly. And, Bannon is filled and, in fact, is behind partially all of these kinds of crazy notions that ICE should be interfering with our election. Now, you can't constitutionally say that Immigration and Customs Services has any right, for whatever reason, to interfere with an election, but they're trying to do this. They're trying to make this happen.
You
That's
would you
part
would
of the.
imagine someone who's prominently featured in the Epstein files would keep on the lowdown this week.
We've discovered that Bannon and Epstein were actually quite close, and Bannon was was connected with Epstein partially because it's just rich guys to help rehabilitate Epstein's reputation after his spending time in jail and being arrested and convicted for, yes, child, molestation or whatever, um, a beef which only got him 13 months in jail, and he had 6 days a week going home privileges or whatever. It was the most minimal imprisonment that you can possibly imagine. Um, so essentially, he had to spend weekends in jail. That's pretty much how it comes out. So, needless to say, that's the same deal, with all due respect, that Ghislaine Maxwell is getting, that she gets sort of a cushy deal. And then there's all kinds of background about that, about, whether there's payoffs to the warden at her facility in Texas and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of that stuff. So that's happening.
All right, we've got all prepped, ready to go.
There
Got
we go.
the dish ready for serving. We've got our onion bhaji ready, so it's you just make it thick enough so that it sticks together with the different flours. And then we've got the zucchini as well, a different one. I shall prep to get outside and we'll fire up the oil.
All right.
Looks good.
Yum. So after my little yak there, yeah, it's been a busy week, and we haven't gotten to all of just the normal stuff that is part of just having a government. Uh, it's all front-ended, in the sense that, Trump had an interview with NBC on Wednesday, and the press, the guy Yama there, he's their, I guess, the evening anchor, for NBC's broadcasting. And he asked, with all due respect, a bunch of softball questions, didn't follow up on a couple of other things that he really should have done. And so there's intimidation is going on, the kind of normal, access journalism stuff that, Trump would have probably stormed out had they actually asked him something more embarrassing. But then again, would Trump know that he's being embarrassed? Because at several moments, as I pointed out, I have pointed out, is that Trump just,
Got no shame, or it's
gibberish,
just like, oh yeah.
gibberish happened. There was a couple of moments where he didn't know what the hell he was saying. And of course, Yama should have, said something. What did you mean by that, Mr. President, about blowing up boats and not having smallest drugs? What does that expression mean? What's the smallest drug? Or as it was transcribed, the smallest trucks, which made it even more bizarre. So anyway, there was 30 minutes of that craziness. And during which, he talked about the federalization of the elections and talked about he just made up all kinds of crap. And on top of that, well, just the icing on the cake is that apparently he's planning on fully bulldozing, or at least taking it down to the bare steel, the Kennedy Center. So that's coming up. Now, he has $257 million allocated for renovation at the Kennedy Center. But the reality, of course, is that in the first term, in 2019, they had already done a renovation. So it's only 6 years later, and Trump, because he was dissatisfied, mainly because he didn't have control, he wants to do a whole remake, whatever that is, of the Kennedy Center. And we've seen a hint at that with the marble armrests that he had already planned. He's planning on marble armrests to replace, padded armrests, I assume, or plastic armrests in Kennedy Center. Aside from the fact that there was an expansion, and of course, he's trying to compensate for the fact that the National Opera has pulled out. I think the National Symphony has pulled out. And, he's just covering. I mean, he's just covering for the fact that everybody, Philip Glass decided he's not going to participate in revealing his symphony there, and blah, blah, blah. So there's all that kind of stuff happening. But on the other hand, we can expect in 2028, I guess the Bolshoi will probably come to the Trump Kennedy Center or whatever. So there's that. It's been a busy week for craziness. Now, somebody should have, asked him questions about that as well. I mean, and this all comes on closing the Kennedy Center for 2 years to, I'm not even going to repeat the Trumpian BS that comes with that. But it was because everybody kept on pulling out. So Trump decides, oh, we're going to suspend operations for two years to refurbish, and it'll come back bigger and better and blah, blah, blah. So
Quarter of my burner is sealed. I guess we got
All right.
a leaky roof. We got ice dropped, the water dropped here and froze.
That's a big water drop.
Oh, that should melt for a little bit.
Fire that sucker up.
Also have some of our oil from the last used time.
Fat.
We'll be here for a little bit before the gets to the frying temperature.
Firing up fat.
Pace yourself.
Well, we're just moving along here. Let's see. What else happened in the world? Well, aside from the possibility of a war, there's a purge going on in the People's Republic of China, where a significant number, not that big a number, but it's a significant number of major military folks at the highest level. One of the guys who is sort of the successor to Xi Jinping got purged. And there's all these other side stories that say, well, you know, he got arrested and then he got assassinated. None of that has happened yet, or at least reports haven't happened. So there's just a lot of talk. And
Oh, so
it's
he
not the
has
first.
disappeared.
Well, but he has disappeared.
Oh,
I mean, in the sense that no one has seen him, you know,
mm.
since his arrest, whatever that was. And there's no picture of his arrest, too, because, you know, the PRC does a good job of that kind of stuff. So he and a couple of other folks got disappeared, and they were major people within the military apparatus. But on the other hand, you know, that's just the top end of what there a bunch of middle or lesser military guys have been already removed for corruption, a variety of corruptions that includes there's a sexual thing that got rid of one guy and a bunch of other stuff that has happened that is part of, you know, sort of the embarrassing things about the PRC, as well as the usual ratcheting up of exercises, uh, you know, around Taiwan. So there's a lot of that's
Mm.
happened. It's still happening. It still occurs. Um, the point being, of course, is that, you know, Trump wants to, or the US wants to indicate that it could actually sustain a war with China, which is, you know, that's just not going to happen. I mean, despite the fact that Japan has recently announced that it sort of wants to think about nuclear weapons again, or at least they want to bring up the idea that they have a little more control over whether they will move towards something that looks like nuclear weapons. And so there's that little background current going on, as well as, of course, the obvious Iranian thing, which is, on the one hand, an attempt to make them not build nuclear weapons, which they probably already have, which is sort of the absurdity of all of this arm waving. And if nothing else, they have the launch vehicles for it. So if they buy a nuclear weapon from somebody, they can just, you know, sort of slap it on one of their ballistic missiles. They have two-stage ballistic missiles. They have really big ballistic missiles. They're not small things. And they have a decent range, so they could drop it on pretty much anybody within the Middle East. And there's another news story that came up that they had supposedly warmed up one of their facilities for this really large ballistic missile. Um, so anyway, they are ballistic missiles on the same size as, bigger than our intermediate ones, the ones for whom the treaty just ran out. And so there's been some arm waving about quote unquote new start. Trump has talked about that, but he really doesn't know what he's talking about. But he threw that into a bunch of other things as well, aside from all the usual stuff that Trump is bringing out, up to and including, of course, his racist stuff, which is more immediate. But he's willing to talk about pretty much anything and everything, and it's still all about Epstein because 50% has been released, but 50% is still hidden. And the 50% that got released has really incompetent redactions, so that they redact images, but they don't redact names in certain contexts. So they'll do a passport from somebody, they'll redact the image, but not redact the signature. So, you know, what are they doing? Is it just incompetence? Is it something else? But we don't know what that something else is. So there's that. There were good quotes this week that the consigliere, Todd Blanche, said it's not a crime to party with Jeff Epstein. Now that's going to be, you know, that may wind up on his tombstone, but there's that. And I guess you could say, just as a matter of declaration, well, it probably wasn't a crime to party with Jeff Epstein, except that now we know that a whole bunch of people from all over the place, including Elon Musk, were fascinated, excited about Jeffrey Epstein's parties. And the data, the things that have been released are damning. I mean, on the front end, it is the it is the fact that people do go to parties, and then there was a tip line that has thousands of tips that are they're correlated, they're recorded, they become data. But the fact is, those are all just tips, recorded tips to the FBI or whatever. And so that jacks up the number of mentions of Trump. But this is all technically sort of hearsay. And so none of it has that actionable stuff, except underneath, there's some actual sworn testimony under oath, still legal, still applicable and actionable, that Trump did rape children. It's just there. It's just there. You go look for it, and it's there. This is not hearsay. It's not a peripheral mention in an email. It's not that. It's a sworn document. And this isn't the front end where you're trying to get an indictment. This is something that really has substance. And so therefore, somebody's got to ask him about it, ask Trump about it. And of course, Trump will not answer it because he's we still live in a democracy. But it's pretty damning. And even if you don't have all this other
were they,
stuff.
in the words of Megyn Kelly, they weren't that young now, were they?
Oh God, Megyn Kelly, that poor woman. I mean, can she get any more foolish? Because essentially that's the trope, right? That's the trope that Dershowitz was trying to push in an op-ed of many decades now, that 16 was too old, or you should lower the statutory rape limit down to 15 or 14 or whatever. This is the underlying argument that they're not that old. This is a whole argument about what counts as puberty or pubescence. And when you start getting into that place where you're trying to rationalize sex with children, it's over the cliff. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, yes, you could say historically, and culturally, and blah, blah, blah. And yes, there are states in the United States where, is it 12-year-olds or 14-year-olds, whatever, the marriage laws allow it. Technically, they don't talk about sex, they just talk about marriage, right? And so we're in a place, America is in a bad place about this, and people don't want to sort of cop to the problem. And not necessarily that we should, define rigidly, nationally, what statutory rape is, but it's certainly clear that we should have a bigger and better conversation about it, particularly when certain other people are trying to, hide their, kind of depravity at an elite level. The same people who are getting all that money are also having an incredibly good time, whatever that might be, whatever that might mean. And that's kind of where the Epstein files are now. You're beginning to see, there are a bunch of other people who were buddies with Epstein who aren't famous names, but they certainly are going to become famous perverts. I mean, and I'm not, this is not pejorative. This one person that has been revealed, describes himself as a pervert. So, okay, fine. Even people with PhDs from Harvard can be perverts. So I think that's you need to sort of cop to that too, as well. So aside from my yammering about this sort of stuff, we're close to scheduling time, or to talk about our calendar and looking at yummy stuff. Look at yummy stuff.
I still have a lot to fry here, so take your time. We have any questions or
yummy stuff?
Other topics to cover?
Oh man, I'm hungry.
From the audience, maybe?
Anyone?
Apparently, a Russian general has been shot in Moscow.
Oh, yes, that's right.
I posted you it in the chat there.
Russians, at least you didn't get pushed out a window, I suppose.
But
Always stay on the
according
first floor hotel.
according to the B, according to the B, he was implicated in the Salisbury poisonings in
Oh,
Britain.
yes, of course.
Hmm.
The Salisbury poisoning, for those who don't
Yes.
recall, is that two KGB guys or FSB guys or whatever, or GRU guys, went to Salisbury on the pretext that these were both military guys. They go there for quote unquote sightseeing and managed to put nerve agent on somebody's doorknob. And the guy dies. I think his daughter or whatever survived, but just an interesting poisoning case. And sorted in this weird way that these two guys go out of their way to do this sightseeing trip to kill somebody, and it's just
Well, what else were they going to put on their form when they entered the country?
indeed, you're not gonna, why you're entering the
Please,
Great
please
Britain.
declare your
Declare your
substances.
intentions. So yes. So if he's implicated in that particular espionage deal, whatever. I think karma's at work, perhaps. Anyway, so yes. Anyone else want to join in? There's just craziness going on, and some people are taking advantage or exploiting, as it were, that degree of chaos. It's interesting from a sort of detached academic point of view, but it's horrible in the sense that they're trying to move a trope, or that you should carry, and no one has their birth certificate with at hand, but you should carry something that indicates that you are a citizen of the United States. And background to that, of course, is the thing that has been brought up for decades about a federal ID. And there are various constitutional reasons for not having one, although de facto we have them. I mean, a passport, whatever. But they're trying to leverage this in kind of interesting ways, and there will be cases that'll be introduced into suppressing people who are trans, suppressing people who are naturalized citizens or who have married some, and then they'll get to the green card people, and then you're just going to see this as this larger kind of problem that is part of a pernicious, dictatorial grab for power, while other people, peripherally related, grab all your money. We're in really a bad economic sense. This past week, Trump finally decided who he was going to choose for Federal Reserve chair. And unfortunately, I didn't have money on this. I should have put money into Polymarket, but this guy Warsh is going to be the designated guy. And he's been a Federal Reserve governor before, so he has the experience to do this particular activity. On the other hand, he swings with the wind. During his time on the Fed, he accommodated, Obama, etc. So there's actually a chart that shows which side he sort of waves on. So one presumes that he's going to be quote unquote in favor, but I think he's a rational human being, even though he's the son-in-law of the guy who suggested to Trump that he seize Greenland. So something's going on there. I mean, seriously speaking.
We're getting nervous up here. They started to talk about Svalbard. Svalbard it's the northernmost Norwegian island between Us and Greenland,
Yes.
another strategic island that they're interested in.
There are a bunch of those. There's one that's actually, takeable that they haven't talked about that's on the northwest corner of Greenland that is, I think, Canada.
Nova
But
Scotia?
oh no, no, there's another island it's past the Arctic Circle, but it there are enough of these little things that could happen. Then there's those islands where they murder all those whales, right? I can't remember what it's called. And that's one of those islands that's between Iceland and Norway. So a lot of that kind of stuff.
I sure hope they don't try to take over Nova Scotia. They'd be in for a world of hurt based on the documentary, the Trailer Boys I seen about it.
Well,
Trailer Park Boys.
with respect, Nova Scotia does have a kind of Wisconsin death trip going on. But anyway, that's another story for another time. Needless to say, and we haven't really scratched the surface about other stuff. There's just things that are tabloid oriented. That disappearing people is actually a form of human trafficking, and so you need to go sort of think. What else is, if the state does human trafficking, is it still human trafficking? It kind of is when you have people, taken from Minnesota to Texas, unconstitutionally, without warrants, without a legal structure, separating or at least disintegrating family ties, etc. So there's that going on. We're in weird places, and I didn't even talk about Ukraine. In Ukraine, well, that's a really long story. The point being is that it's still happening. There's still talks about peace. No one has changed their position. It really is a situation where the U.S. is trying to get Zelensky to capitulate, but the Russians won't move on their demands to essentially re-assimilate Ukraine, that it become Russian speaking, that it essentially becomes a puppet like Belarus. So there's that. And 20 balloons over Estonia, I think, this past week, or Lithuania. There's a bunch of other strange things occurring in Europe that are part of this kind of the weird story that all of this is about. So there's that. It's been a busy week. Are we set, Joe?
Yeah, we're all set. We've got our onion pakora and zucchini. I'll cut them open in a bit. Let me get them set up here. Nice and crispy.
In about 30 minutes, actually 38 minutes, we're going to have more Night Gallery, I guess, right, John?
Yes, indeed. We are coming to the end of the Night Gallery on TAC. We decided recently that we would not show the third season of Night Gallery. So this is the last full episode of Night Gallery in the second season. And in my opinion, it's probably the best episode of the series.
Cool.
Yes, it stars Lawrence Harvey, Joanna Pettit,
wow,
Don Williams, not the composer, the actor.
No.
Tom Helmore and Don Knight.
Wow,
yeah, I mean,
Don
in terms of the acting, the story, the directing, the cinematography, this one is firing on all cylinders. If you're particularly squeamish, this may not be the one for you.
Oh no, another one of these.
How about the uplifting factor?
Oh, very uplifting. It's a romantic comedy.
Oh yeah, sure.
Actually, there's no gore in it, really, but it's pretty intense.
Okie dokie. Right after that, if you stick around this evening, after Night Gallery is on at 8:30 at the bottom of the hour, and after that will be the second episode, I assume. I don't know if Travis wants to talk about it. Of Silicon Valley, the Mike Judge series that is quite good, or in my opinion, quite accurate. That does use the kind of tech bro discourse that kind of comes with Silicon Valley, and so that's kind of interesting as well. So that's Friday night. On Saturday, I think we have a movie, but I can't remember what it is. Can someone tell me what the movie is?
Oh, I guess I'll be showing Harold and Maude,
Oh, right.
1971. Yeah.
Because some of us in TAC have not seen Harold and Maude, and we should watch it. We should watch this classic movie.
It's a good film.
Really, it's part of the kind of, canon of kind of interesting, weird movies of that general period. I mean, it's weird in that it has a kind of Baroque context to it and a lot of other kind of subliminal subtext stuff that's really quite good. And of course, it has someone who winds up also in Columbo. It has a Columbo context as well. So Ruth Gordon, right? I think. I haven't seen it in ages. So there's that. You should come and watch it with us because we say stupid stuff during the showings of these things. That's planned on Saturday. I don't know what else is on Saturday. I don't think anything else is other than we do play a lot of music and argue with each other. Joe?
Yeah, that's it on Saturday.
Sunday, I don't think there's a struggle session.
Nope.
Earlier today, you missed office hours with Adnan Hussein that should be on Adnan Hussein's place on YouTube, among others, and he's interviewing Gabriel Rockhill and on stuff that we should probably be more aware of. The evils of the professional managerial class, and there's just not enough anti-imperialist Marxism out there. There just should be more. So whatever that means. So there's that. Just to backtrack a second. Sunday, 5:00 p.m., I think, is the first thing that we do, and that is Star Trek Next Generation. John, do you want to talk about that episode?
Certainly, yes. It is called Allegiance. And in this episode, Captain Picard is abducted and held with 3 other prisoners, of which he is not familiar. It's an interesting episode, yes.
It is. It is. It's quite an interesting episode. It's one of those things where, well, it has the context of theater in the sense that, he's trying to work out the thing with his fellow prisoners. And, it's that whole, it is, in fact, a prisoner's dilemma at some point. But anyway, there's that.
He should feel quite at home then in the theater. Space theater.
What is that?
He's a Shakespearean, if I recall correctly.
Definitely.
Indeed he is. Right after that will be something. Music something. And Lane, tell us about it.
Right. If you hadn't slipped into a coma last Sunday, like most of you did, I finished my stint last Sunday and you were all gone, just John sat there on his own. I played the soundtrack to this week's film, Powwow Highway. It's a comedy adventure. Buddy and Filbert, 2 Cheyenne Indians, face racism and prejudice while trying to seek justice for Buddy's sister, who is wrongly convicted. It's a handmade comedy, and at the end of that, I'll be playing the soundtrack to next week's handmade movie. I'll see how far I can go with this.
For those who haven't heard before, Lane is doing the sort of
Yes.
curve of handmade films.
Yes.
Really is kind of exciting,
And their soundtracks, because of course, still,
right?
if
Because
you
they're
if you
great.
if George Harrison's your boss, it's got to be good,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely
they are good. They're good soundtracks.
exciting. On
Yes.
Monday, Nate's going to continue reading the book on Palo Alto, which is really, it's not just Palo Alto. It is kind of one version of the history of Silicon Valley, among many others. It's really a great book, and we've been sort of going through it together. And for me, it's very, I find it really exciting and interesting because it tells at a very in a very different way the kind of history that doesn't a social history that doesn't get fully explicated in most of these kinds of things. So for me, I learned a lot about history of California in that particular context. So there's that on Monday, around which we usually do other things. On Tuesday is the Red Hour, which is 6 o'clock in Central Time, 7 o'clock in Eastern Time. And I don't know if Bruce wants to talk about it. Bruce?
Yes. So Tuesday night, we're going to dip into some of the political career of the last great asshole president before the current one, Richard Nixon.
Oh,
And two pieces by Dr. Hunter Thompson.
Exciting.
One about he wrote about so they're not really short stories, but more essay type of writing. The 1968 the primary campaign in New Hampshire, and then, of course, the classic obituary of Richard M. Nixon in 1994. So we'll look at both those pieces.
Gonzo, very Gonzo.
Yeah, very gonzo.
Only recently, I think it's last week or the week before last, they finally settled for Hunter Thompson's widow. They finally, decided, or however you want to see it litigated, that he did in fact commit suicide, which is, how many years does it take? But in fact, he did. He committed suicide, but that was just very interesting. I mean, it's interesting that it only just got settled. So there's that. So that's Tuesday.
Was that a paperwork issue or?
I think it was a declaration. Yeah, it's paperwork, I think. I don't know if there was a conflict between his earlier stuff and the estate, his estate, or I think it's all about the estate ultimately.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the nature of his death. It's just all about property ultimately. So there's that. On Wednesdays, I keep forgetting to mention at 6 o'clock, I do a Wednesday office hours, which is usually me yammering about some text of one type or another. This week, we're doing the Theater of Capital, or that is, this is done by a woman who does really interesting kind of theater stuff. She's a performer. She does a playwright and an academic, and she picked a couple of really interesting things: Chekhov, Ibsen, etc., and no Brecht for some reason, as she actually explains that. Where the text is, of course, a materialist text, and one that talks about, the kind of economic and political elements is not a new thing. I mean, it goes back to people talking about, other kinds of things in so-called cultural sociology that, it's why Americans did Shakespeare in the 19th century in the Wild West, on the frontier. So there's a whole literature that's really quite interesting. It's a kind of historiographic literature. But anyway, so that's our week. Joe, are we close to ending?
Yeah, I just wanted to
Closing
give you a
remarks.
little look at the interior life of the. Where's the camera? There we go. It's the onion
Yum.
pakora. And we've got the
Oh man,
zucchini. Nice and colorful.
everything is better fried.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's
100, and
no,
this is fried, deep fried in 100% seed oil.
yum. Oh man, I'm hungry again.
We
All
shall
right,
see you
we'll try and
next
do better next week.
Wow.